Take a good look, Roger. Remember this poor wretched soul, for he is your son.
Watch out for that first step.
Oh, Christ! I hate it when that happens!
Thousands of volts pass through your cranium, turning your brain into a quivering mass of short-circuited neurons, which effectively terminates all interpretation of sensory impulses.
I'm in the stupid time pod. Where else can I go? Hey, that one might actually be kind of helpful. Where do you think? Someplace where the sun don't shine.
Hey, aren't you the guy who broke my slot machine? You owe me some money. Well, I gotta run. My hog pod's double parked. Hey, it's been swell talking to you.
Nice reflexes. Life is pounded loose from your body by the impact of the sand bike.
Is there a fix available for this? I walk into the first room and get the message, oops, you tried something we didn't think of. Oops, you are something we didn't think of.
This is Roger. This is Roger on Ortega. Any questions?
True. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Matt, and we're finishing off our playthrough of Space Quest 4. Where we left off is we eluded the sequel police in the arcade, and we snuck into their time pod. As you can see here, the interior of the time pod looks exactly the same as the one we used to get to Estros. However, now we're obviously in Space Quest 10, same time frame, different location in the arcade. If we have a look at our time pod readout, this gives us not only time coordinates, but position coordinates. So technically speaking, we're still in Space Quest 10, like we were when we landed on Estros, but we're actually at this Galleria in the middle of space. So just like before, you never know, it might be useful, and I guarantee you it is. We might need to come back here, so I'm just going to use my phone. I'm going to take a photo of these time coordinates, and as I was saying in the other parts of the playthroughs, when I was a kid, you can also just draw this out with a pen and pencil. It's not particularly hard. Now you might be thinking, what do we do next? We're in the time pod. We could go back to Xenon. If we did, what could we do there? Not really sure at this point. We've collected a bit of stuff. We've got, some Buckazoids, the rabbit, which we've got the battery out of, a bit of slime. This half-used time coordinate, basically with a bit of bubble gum, I think, stuck on it. So not really half-useful, I should say, time coordinate. Not really useful though without the extra 2 digits. ATM card we've used. The cigar we haven't. Pocket power we haven't. But again, what are these things going to do? But hey, we've bought this Space Quest 4 hint book. Let's have a read.
It would serve no purpose.
Oh, I thought you pressed the little dongle on there, but there we go. So let's take a look at our hint book. Space Quest 4 hint book. I'm in a long tunnel with a light visible at the far end. What should I do? Maybe you're having a near-death experience. Go for it. Haven't you ever seen Poltergeist? Go into the light, Carol Ann. Okay, not useful. The wound where the tentacled venomite ripped my larynx out keeps getting infected. Help. Have you been picking it again? That will only make it worse. Have you found the iodine dispenser? Have you found the bottle of the peroxide? Have you found the salt shaker? Mix the iodine into the peroxide and shake some salt into it. Apply the mixture to the wound. Scrape yourself off the ceiling and get on with the game. I can't seem to find a one-armed man anywhere.
It would serve no purpose.
Oops. Ask Bob. Who do you think you're fooling? There's no one-armed man. You made it all up, Kimball. Turn yourself in. You can't find the one-armed man, so don't bother looking. Okay, he's at the carnival. So, for those of you who ever watched The Fugitive back in the 90s, this is a reference to The Fugitive. So, they basically, Kimball, the doctor, says a one-armed man did it, and they all think he's joking, but yeah. Alright. Oops.
It would.
I can't hear what the 2 guys at the bar are saying. Have you tried typing listen to men? Oh, that's right, this is a puzzleless game. Click the ear icon to the men. Oh, that's right, there's no ear icon. Click the eye icon onto the men. That didn't help either, did it? Did you think it would? Just fooling, there's no way to hear what they're saying. That'll teach you to read ahead in this hint book. Then we have strawberry is to sky as fire engine is to blueberry. India, good dental hygiene. Putting the keycard into the slot in the dracometer and turning on the viewfinder. Classic. I'm in the stupid time pod. Where else can I go? Hey, that one might actually be kind of helpful. Where do you think? Someplace where the sun don't shine. Classic. Ulence Flats, if you had the coordinates.
Oh, great. Only half the answer showed. It must be a defective hint module.
So, there we go. Only half of the heat module's working. So, I was actually wrong. It's a 6-digit code. My mistake from earlier. So, we've got a C. I like to call this the choke symbol because it looks like the choke you have on a car back in the late 80s. Yeah, no one will get that reference, but that's fine. And a backwards E. So C, choke, backwards E. Just need to remember that. And then we might as well read through the rest of these just for fun. When I try to splice the VideoLink cable into the Venusian holomat, I end up irradiating myself with deadly plutonium. What do I do now? Good question. So far, our best solution is to seal yourself in a 50 by 50 foot block of concrete. Then bury yourself at least 1,500 feet deep, preferably in an unpopulated, undeveloped area. Avoid salt mines or areas where corrosion may breach the concrete. Try not to talk to or touch anybody or anything for the next 50,000 years. Classic. There's a large slimy creature blocking the door to the custodian's room in the Magmethian building. That's not even a question, technically speaking. Okay, how do I get past it? What do you think he's waiting for? He's undoubtedly waiting for a custodian. If he wants a custodian, he'll probably need some of that awful pine-scented sawdust. Give pine-scented sawdust to creature. I've got the book running on the suborbital survey. What do I do with it? This one's easy. Read it. Make note of any particularly important features and events. Did you enjoy the book? Why or why not? Explain your answer, giving examples from the text. Be brief. I'm in a strange room inside the supercomputer. Scary eyeball-looking things stare at me. Biomechanical bones liven up the area nicely. How do I get the door open? That's going to sound kind of relevant later on. Use the Ovaltine, Roger. The jaws of life would be most helpful. Since neither of these items are in this game, try this code. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Since that one didn't work, try this one. 69, 65, 84, 76, 69. Alright, so again, later in the game, that's probably going to be a useful code. So since I don't actually have a pen in front of me, I'm going to use my technological device here and take a photo. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up. We'll call your family in the hospital right away, Mrs. Fletcher. I've just started the game and I've got an ampule of Vohaul 256, the wad of chewing tobacco and an open can of classic DNA. What now? What now? What more did you want? Have you tried inhaling the Vohaul 256? Have you tried chewing the wad of tobacco? Have you tried sipping some classic DNA? Oops. Gosh, those didn't work. Put the tobacco and the ampule into the can and shake. Go to the room with the defibrillator, pour the mixture into it, and go 3 screens to the left. After the explosion, go back into the room and take the ID chip from the dead guard. Get into the pod, and go to the horse's asteroid, fight the security drones, and put the ID chip into the second servo booth. Climb into the subsystem computer and use the laser rasp to access the vector panel. Cut the green and lavender wires and step back. You win. Congratulations. I install the game as per instructions and the game freezes up. What am I doing wrong? Your computer room is too cold. Make sure your thermostat is set above 32 degrees. Classic. Is there a fix available for this? I walk into the first room and get the message, oops, you tried something we didn't think of. Oops, you asked something we didn't think of. My computer has a 5.25 inch drive and this game comes in a 3.5 inch only. How can I get a bigger disc? So far there are no good methods. Don't fall for ads depicting miracle methods such as pumps, hormone pills or injections. Your best bet is to tell yourself it is not the size that counts. Oh wait, did you say disc? Another classic. Okay, so that's the end of the hint book. Some really funny ones in there. But let's get back to the game. So now Ulence Flats, we now have the code. So, it was C, choke, backwards E, and then we need to look at our inventory. And it's like the U, corner thing, T. So the U, where's the U? Can't see it. There it is. The corner thing, which should be that one, I think, and T.
The powerful quad
Sweet.
quark drives Rev to life. Time and space bend under the fibrillations of the time-rip transfluxers. Your adrenaline and stomach reel with the hyperbolic hyperbole. And finally...
So we are on our way to Ulence Flats. Now if you've never played Space Quest 4 before, you are in for a treat. So if we look out the window, what do we see?
It's a large compartment that's probably full of instruction manuals, code books, time maps, and the like. Too bad it's also locked.
Okay, that's not what I expected to see.
Memories race through your mind. You know you've seen this place in your distant past. The low-resolution features look exactly like a place you once visited called Ulence Flats.
So, as you can see by the status bar, we're back in Space Quest 1, the Saren encounter, where it all began. And this is Ulence Flats. So, if you've watched my playthrough of Space Quest 1, this should look really, really familiar. To me, this is genius what the authors did here, keeping the graphics exactly like they were, implementing a bit of time travel back to a place we used to be. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. Alright, so I'm going to save it here because this is a little bit perilous. And I love even the save thing here. This replicates what the save thing used to look like. Alright, so let's take a wander around here. There's not a huge amount we can actually do because I've limited this basically to obviously save the gauge size and, you know, keep us on track.
The sign indicates that this establishment is not open for business.
So the droids bias is closed, so we're not buying any droids today. Let's head over to the west side here and let's see if Tiny's used spaceships is still going. The other thing that people who've played Space Quest before may have noticed is in the background, can you hear that noise? It's like a little bit of a squeaky noise. The Space Quest 1 VGA remake used that exact noise for the force field generators, I believe it is. So here we are at Tiny's.
You've obviously found the location of Tiny's used spaceships. Lucky you.
Now, if you remember from the Space Quest 1 playthrough, there was that ship that if you bought it, it bored us hole into the ground.
At the bottom of this excavation is a small craft almost totally buried in dirt. You remember barely making it back out when the engine died.
Classic, so you even remember back there.
This must be the Yugo of spaceships. You wonder why anyone would bother to lock it.
So a Yugo was a car from the, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. It was absolutely garbage, very cheap. But the old bar is still going.
The sign suggests that this place might be a bar.
However, notice that there's these extra things out the front here.
As you check out the sand bikes, you wonder what kind of cheeseball would own one.
Okay, so there's some sand bikes. It's worth remembering. So let's head into the bar.
The old bar is still here. The smell of Coronian ale stinks up the place. The aroma leads you to remember vividly your previous visit here. You break out in a cold sweat.
Now, I always used to think that this sort of thing by the door here was like a time code thing. I don't think it is. Maybe it is if you look really hard, but there is one secret time code. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I tried very hard to make that work and never got anything out of it. Could be me though, so if you've ever got that to work in the time pod, please let me know. Put it in the comments.
Some rather drab-looking individuals are hogging the bar. This guy's too ugly to describe. You see two guys singing.
Now,
You see a book of matches on the bar countertop.
just like back in the day, the res is pretty low, so you have to look for like little pixelated things that are out of place. So there's a book of matches here. Let's grab
Your
it.
attempt to get the matches failed.
Well, looky here. If it ain't Mr. Look at Me, I'm in VGA. What's the matter? Monochrome not good enough for you? What's this? 256 colors all for one little bitmap wimp? What a waste of VGA. Hey, fellas, I bet I can toss them all the way out from the bottom of the stairs. Bet you an ale.
So just like at Monolith Burger, we've got tossed out on our butt, which is pretty funny. I'm just going to save this again at Ulence Flats, because there's a few ways this can go. So let's try and get our matches again. And then we get tossed out again. Let's try a third time. Nope. Maybe a fourth? No, we're just going to get kicked out. So, they've left their bikes parked out here. Who remembers watching Police Quest 1 playthrough and what we did with bikes? Classic. In real life, this would go down very poorly. And this being the computer world is actually no exception. This also goes down very poorly. So these monochrome dudes are not happy.
Boy, that was close. Hey, how come their bikes can go through the force field?
Okay. So now we need to be a little bit careful. I might just actually save it here. Bike's after me. So far so good. One thing I never tried, let's talk to the bartender.
Hey, aren't you the guy who broke my slot machine? You owe me some money. Well, I gotta run. My hog pod's double parked. Hey, it's been swell talking to you.
Classic.
You pick up the book of matches. They don't have time to talk right now.
Alright, I think that's about all we can do here. Let's cruise on out. Now, I've got a book of matches.
You hear a high-pitched whine from the east.
Uh-oh. The trick is,
Boy, that was close.
you've got to click jump out the way just before they hit you. Otherwise, you get mowed down. So let's just save this here as with matches. Now, just for fun, of course, let's see what happens if we actually do get run over by the bike.
You hear a high-pitched whine from the east. Nice reflexes. Life is pounded loose from your body by the impact of the sand bike. Now this is a pain that'll linger. All the Bengay in Florida won't relieve this stiffness.
Classic. Alright. So let's cruise back into the pod. Okay, so now we've got some matches. We've used the time coordinates for Ulence Flats. There's nothing else we can get from here. This is a logical time to go back to Xenon. So if we peruse my phone, which I got open here, let's go back to my photos. And Xenon was question mark, I with a bar thing, the seat, I with a bar thing, C. Enter.
The powerful quad quark drives Rev to life. Time and space bend under the fibrillations of the time-rip transfluxers. Your adrenaline and stomach reel with the hyperbolic hyperbole. And finally,
Alright, so here we are back in Xenon. Let's just do a quick save. Alright. So at this point, we can get out the pod and we can actually finish up the game. But just for fun, let's see if we can go to Ortega. Okay, sorry for that little jump cut pause there. I just needed to find the secret time code for Ortega. So, it's very simple. It's the top row left to right. And then after you've done that, it's the leftmost symbol in the second row.
The powerful quad quark drives Rev to life. Time and space bend under the...
I've heard this a few times, so let's skip him. So, that's neat.
This view provides a flashback to a recent adventure. It looks real hot out there. Hot enough for thermo-weave underwear.
That's thermo-weave underwear. Unfortunately, we don't have any thermo-weave underwear. So, just for funsies... Actually, we don't need to save it because we've technically saved it in Xenon again anyway. If we hit the little button here and we get out, right on this precarious ledge...
This is Roger. This is Roger on Ortega. Any questions?
So, those of you that grew up in the late 80s or early 90s may remember an ad campaign, and it was an egg, and it was like, this is your brain on drugs, and they like scrambled it and fried it. So that's a bit of a play on that. But anyway, let's go back to Xenon again. It's nothing really to do on Ortega, unfortunately. Nonetheless, nice Easter egg, especially with the graphics, just like they did for the Space Quest 1 time sector. Alright, so here we are back at the Sequel Police Dispatch. I always thought Sequel Police was kind of cool too. Now, if we wander over to the right-hand side, where just before we were rudely interrupted by a guard, we'll find that he's now gone. If we take a look
Your
at
innate
this...
sense of curiosity makes you wish you knew the way to open this thing.
So it doesn't seem we can open it. I'm just going to save this at entrance, because I can't remember if this is fatal or not.
None of the codes you punch in seem to have any effect on the door.
Okay, so none of the codes we punch in. This thing is securely locked. What have we got in our little inventory here that can dissolve metals? Well, that's right, it's time for the slime.
Well, there's not much left of the lock now.
Awesome. Alright, so this is a funky looking corridor. I'm just going to save it because this part here, if you get it wrong, also results in a not so great outcome. So you can see there's these weird annular rings kind of going along here. Let's see what happens when we walk through.
We're glad you could play Space Quest 4.
So we got
As
that.
usual, you've been a real pantload.
So there's more to this than meets the eye. So there's little laser beams coming out of these little annular rings. So how do you see laser beams in the movies? Well, we've got a cigar, we've got some matches, let's make some smoke.
You slide the conveniently pre-moistened stogie between your lips, apply a lit match, and proceed to nearly hack up a lung. You cast the old stogie to the ground.
Alright, so now we can see the laser beams. There's also this console thingy here. Now this is how much to rotate each in degrees. So for the first one here, if we turn it, let's see, 360 will end up where it was. If you turn it 180, it will go not quite far enough. So let's go about 190. Bit too far. For this one here, I reckon about 20 degrees. Now you need a leading 0. Not quite enough. This other one's got to be about, I'm going to say 120. Ooh, a little bit too far. So for this one here, we want, oh, let's see, probably about 160. Perfect. You can see we've got these nice and vertical. For this one here, I'm going to say 20 again. Great. And for that one there, I'm going to go 170. Perfect. So now these are in alignment. Doors aligned. Let's see what the narrator's got to say about this.
The laser beams glow in the smoky air.
Nice ambience. Alright, but what is on the other side of this corridor? I'm sure most of you have guessed it.
This maze of cables, ducts, pipes, and glowing panels gives the superbrain computer a sense of being alive.
So we're in the superbrain computer. Now what are these little things with the dots?
You hear an electronic hum approaching from ahead of you.
Okay, we need to be careful of that. Now, see, it's like a plug. What we're going to do now is I'm going to get out of here. Actually, I might get out of... make up my mind. Get out of here down here.
You hear an electronic hum approaching from behind you.
Okay. So that little droidy thing is rather nasty. And if it spots us, it will shoot us. Now, we're just going to get out of here for a second. We're going to go right on back in. And hopefully our little droid friend has moved on with life. Now, that little plug thing that we saw, what do you think that might plug into? Well, what haven't we used yet? We've still got that laptop thing. Now, let's just try and plug our laptop into that socket.
The Pocket Pal doesn't plug in directly. Maybe you need some kind of adapter.
Maybe you need some kind of adapter. And that's why when we took a
an
look...
electronic hum approaching from behind you.
Okay, we've got to get out of here again because the droid's coming back because the sequence is reset. So we need some kind of adapter perhaps. Where do you buy adapters in the 1990s that sort of exist now but not really anymore? That's it. You thought of it. We need to go to Radio Shack. Now, you may also be thinking in your head, we haven't used the money yet. You're correct, we haven't used the money yet. How much do you think this little adapter dongle is going to cost? And if you guessed about 2,000 buckazoids, you'd guess about right. So ironically, we now need to go back to Radio Shack so we can get the Pocket Pal to work. Now, in reality of this game, this is not strictly necessary. If you don't plug the Pocket Pal in, you're not penalised in any way, except for your score will go down. But you still finish the game in exactly the same way, and you get exactly the same good ending. So if I go back to my little photos here, I can see the coordinates for the arcade were that thing, the I with the bar with it, the T, the C... the C with a bar under it, and the choke. Great.
The powerful quad quark drives Rev to life. Time and space bend under the fibrillations of the time-rip transfluxers. Your adrenaline and stomach reel with the hyperbolic hyperbole. And finally...
So if you didn't write down the time coordinates for the arcade while you were there, you got two options. You can restore the game and just get to that point and write them down, because it doesn't change as long as you don't restart the game. Your other option is just to ignore it. The only thing the Pocket Power really gives you is location of the droids and a message from Vohaul. Now, the location of the droids is kind of useless in some respects, but the message from Vohaul kind of gives a little bit of context, as he's got your son and a couple of other things. So it's kind of worth it for that, and because we're doing a complete playthrough, I'm going to do this one as the authors allow us to. So nothing's changed here. I think if you walk down the downstairs again, you'll basically end up running into a guard and getting shot, so we're not going to do that. See, the software place is closed. And then good old Radio Shack, though, is still open. So, we got to go to the catalogue, and we've definitely got an electronic gadget.
Faux Components Swiss Army Micro Entertainment Center. Styled to look like a real set of miniature components, this is a complete home entertainment center in one 4x6-inch box. Includes CD-ROM unit, turntable, dual cassette with Hyper Wow and Mega Flutter, unfolding 84-inch digital color projection multiscreen TV, corkscrew and toothpick. 2,275 buckazoids. Back ordered. None currently available.
So we can see we can't get that, so continue.
Dodecaphonic around sound processor. Ever notice how flat and unexciting normal stereophonic, quintrophonic, and octaphonic recordings are? With the dodecaphonic around sound processor, your music will seem to come from 12 directions. In front of you, behind you, either side of you, 4 midpoints in between, above you, below you, from inside of you, and from the upstairs neighbors. 877 buckazoids. Discontinued.
So I can afford that, but it's discontinued.
CD-GI-ROM TV. Move over CD-ROM, CDG, CDI, and CD-TV. CD-GDI-ROM TV does everything the others do and more. Besides accepting the formats mentioned above, CD-GI-ROM TV also plays high-quality Laserdisc movies, sure to become popular any century now. 842 buckazoids. Estimated delivery, summer 2,735.
So this is a bit of a dig. Early 90s Laserdiscs were around, but they were really unpopular because they were quite expensive. But I love how they've put in sure to become popular any century now.
Pocket Pal Portable Terminal. Say, is that a complete workstation in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me? Now you can carry the power of a dumb terminal around with you without even creasing your jumpsuit. Includes chiclet-style keyboard and dentine-style mouse. 3,406 buckazoids.
So you can see the Pocket Pal itself that we found in that little skimmer was really expensive, $34.06.
Pocket Pal Connector. If you're a proud owner of our ever-popular Pocket Pal portable terminal, you have no doubt noticed that without the proper connector, it is virtually useless. Fortunately, at this moment, our exclusive Pocket Pal connector is on sale for just 1,999 buckazoids. Get yours now before the price goes up even further.
So that's a classic. Now the problem is I don't think we've quite got enough money. You do not possess the necessary buckazoids. Ugh. Okay, so what we need to do... I need to go back to my friend at Monolith Burger. So I think we're like a couple of dollars short. Okay, so we need 8 buckazoids, or 7, sorry, because it's only $19.99. Alright, let's... I'll just hang on a second. Yeah, it's fine. Let's go back to our friends at Monolith.
Yeah?
I'd like,
Oh, you again. What do you want? Would you like to apply for a job? You would, huh?
gee,
Skip the text, or the verbal.
Warning, the following sequence contains...
So, I'll wimp out
By the
this
way,
time.
You're about to be fired.
You're fired! My janitor could do a better job than you could.
That's interesting. There's another cigar. I've never noticed that. I wonder if we can pick it up. Funny. Okay. That's just definitely a bit of a side note there. So, I've never actually gone back to Monolith like that in the past. And it seems that there's an extra cigar. Let's really quickly pick up... Oh, wrong button. Let's really quickly pick up our adapter. Now there's a lot of stuff on here that you can actually also just read through and have a laugh at, but looking at the time of the playthrough, I'm probably not going to have time for it. Now, if you are interested in actually having a look at some of the funny things, I highly recommend, I should say, you grab a copy of Space Quest 4 for yourself and have a play. Okay, so looking at that connector photo I took earlier, it's basically a grid of 5 things with 5 pins, and it's this one here. Alright, so now if we turn to the top menu, and then we exit. Thank you for shopping at Radio Shack. Okay, let's save the game here. And we'll call this with adapter. Now, here's a funny one. If I go back in,
This model is programmed to interact.
it's not how you do it. So if I go to catalog, there is a way of returning the one you bought if it's wrong. So there we go, exchange. With a many grind mode and, well, I don't know, the sales bot finally allows you to exchange the plug. I'm just going to get the same one again. But that's kind of funny, that if you get the wrong one, you can actually go back and swap it over. Alright, back on with the game. So, let's head back to the old arcade. Now, technically speaking, you'd be a pretty die-hard dedicated person if you got to that point in the supercomputer and then had to come all the way back here just to exchange that little adapter. But if you want to, hey.
Keep your hand. Don't. You can. Keep your.
So it looks like I can't pick the cigar up.
You retrieve the cigar butt.
Oh, I can. Nice. So I get another one. Now, strictly speaking, we don't need it because those little laser beams stay aligned. But I think that must be a bug in the game because I can't see why there'd be any reason for you to use it a second time. Nonetheless, there's something fun we've picked up in our playthrough. Alright, back to the arcade. Let's get back into this time pod. And while we're doing that, I'm going to look up my coordinates for Xenon. It's going to be this one here. So we've got question mark, I with a bar thing, seat, I with a bar thing, C.
The powerful quad quark drives Rev to life. Time and space bend.
Alright, we've heard this a few times. Let's just skip on through. Okay, so we are back on Xenon. So let's finish this. So now that we've got the adapter, all we need to do is head back the way we came. And then we can plug in the pocket power and see what useful information it gives us. Which, as I said before, is kind of limited use, but for the storyline of the game, it does help out a little bit. Luckily for us, the laser puzzle is all solved, so we can just walk straight through here. So yeah, it's strange we got that extra cigar from Monolith Burger, but that must have just been a bug in the game. Now for the next bit in the ideal world, you'd be able to plug in the pocket power to that little terminal there, but it's a little bit tight in terms of timing with one of the robots that comes after us. So we're just gonna
You hear an electronic hum approaching from your left.
continue up this direction. And we're just gonna avoid this one droid, then we'll plug it in and see what useful info it's
You
got.
hear an electronic hum approaching from your left.
Oop, there's another one. Just avoid that.
This maze of cables, ducts, pipes, and glowing panels gives the superbrain computer a sense of being alive.
So that's the same sort of thing it tells us when we looked at the scenery earlier on. Now we've just got to watch that droid doesn't get us. So that one's off in that direction. Now we've bought a bit of time. Let's plug the adapter in.
You attach the plug to the Pocket Pal.
So you can see here, there's us, this little circle, and we're all clear at the moment through here. But that's not going to stay all clear for long, because there is a droid on the way. So let's head up here, use the Pocket Pal again.
Take a good look, Roger. Remember this poor wretched soul, for he is your son.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Now you knew he was coming, didn't you?
So, one little tip, time does not stand still when you're using the Pocket Pal. Okay, so here we go again. I've just blazed forward to exactly where we were, except this time, I'm just going to hide over here just to the edge, and that droid is going to go the other direction. So now we can go back the way we came, which allows us to go to this tunnel over here on the left. Unfortunately, there's no way to really shortcut this. You kind of have to go forward before you can go backwards, and then also vice versa for a bit later on. The nice thing about this though is by going back this way, we actually get to the console of the supercomputer, and we can turn the droids off so that they're not going to get in our way in the future. But while we're walking back, let's just have a look at some stuff.
This maze of cables, ducts,
Same response as before. Not a huge amount to look at here except for mazes of cables and ducts.
the strange light pulses toward the center structure.
Okay, so a bit of a different response there. Okay, so now we can go back to the left here, right near where we came in. And you can see the droids still cruising around there on the top floor. They kind of patrol in a bit of a pattern. It's quite predictable, so you have a bit of time before the droid will come back, but not an infinite time. So you can see it down there, it's heading back our way, but we have a little bit before it's going to make it exactly to us. Okay, so here we are. Now, if we just save it here, just in case it all goes wrong again, we're going to call this at supercomputer door. If we look at this little panel
You see
here,
a small keypad.
so we see a small keypad,
Keep your
and then from the hint book we had the code for this, which was 69, 65, 84, 76, 69. And that allows us to get into here. Now I'm just going to save it again right now because there is a finite time before the droid will come back and again shoot me while I'm in this little
keep
room.
your hands to yourself.
I think you just got to walk in. There we go. So here we can see we've got King's Quest a lot, Space Quest 4, Leisure Suit Larry 4, and the droid and the computer brain. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the droid into the toilet.
You can't.
Oops. Get it there. There we go. So this is a bit of a play on the Mac interface. You've got the toilet instead of the rubbish bin. So we'll flush the droids down the toilet. You can see that now gets rid of them out of our way. Leisure Suit Larry 4 is what had the Vohaul virus. So let's flush that one down the toilet. Then we've got the brain. That's obviously going to be the super brain computer with Vohaul in it. But just for fun, we can flush King's Quest, whatever that is. And just watch what happens to the memory free. So we've now got 841, 912, 226 gigabytes, which is a lot of free space. Now, if you flush Space Quest 4, it quits the game, so we're not going to do that. But if we flush the brain, watch what happens now. So we're initiating the formatting sequence, valued at 5,000. And I think you click this little button here to quit out. So now we've got time to format. So we'll just do another quick save. We'll call this Matthew Formatting. Okay. So you can see here we've got about 483 seconds, give or take. So we've got a fair bit of time. The trick here is, you sort of might think, why does the time to format matter? Well, Roger's son is basically being held captive by Vohaul in the computer at this point in time. And if this format happens before you can rescue him, then Roger's son is lost forever. I think that it breaks the timeline a little bit, because then he can't rescue you from the sequel police, so everything just falls apart. So we've got to basically rescue your son well before, Roger's son I should say, well before this format completes. Now, the only other place to go in the supercomputer room is basically through these ominous orange tunnels. And that's going to take us to the platform where we saw Vohaul earlier in the game dragging Roger's son kind of into. So let's go up this weird rematerialization, dematerialization elevator. Kind of funny how that works. You'd think a platform would be simpler, but sure, make it to a little transporter. And we'll just head across here. I always loved the music in the background of this part. It was always very, earnest, and it's like, we've got to get action done, otherwise time is running out. So I'm just going to do another save here, because we might have a little bit of fun with this last bit. So we'll get rid of Matthew with strides. We'll call this Matthew at Vohaul. Alright. Let's see what awaits us. So there's our son.
Hello again, Roger. It's me, your old friend, Sludge Vohauls. I've taken the liberty of borrowing your son's body. I had to remove him first to make room for my mental self. His is on this disc. Say, it's most enjoyable to be in a young, healthy body, even if it's from your bloodline. In fact, I like it so much, I think I'll keep it. I guess we'll have no use for this anymore.
Alright, so he's throwing something off the side.
Now it's time to settle things, once and for all. You'd better be careful, though. Keep this in mind. If I die while in this body, that disc will be useless. Your son will never draw another breath. And if you don't defend yourself, you will never live to buff another helmet. Come on, show me what you've got, mop jockey.
Alright, another quick save here. Because basically, there's not much to this. He'll come for us. And then we've kind of got to run at him. Now, if we don't, I think he just fall off the edge. Let's find out anyway, just for fun. So let's just stand here. See what Vohaul does. So not a lot happening yet. I can't walk off the edge. Come on, do something.
You were nearly thrown off the edge of the platform. Be more careful.
Okay, so it looks like maybe the next time he's gonna get us. To be honest, I've never actually let Vohaul get me at this point. It's actually really easy, you just keep clicking forward.
Is that the best effort you can muster? All this space hero nonsense must be getting to you. You're getting old, Roger. I, on the other hand, am enjoying the physical joys of youth.
Oh, so even if you do nothing, you still win. That's weird. So now he's trapped in this beam, which is what happens if you kind of defend yourself anyway. Now, if we use this ladder, or actually even more funny, let's just say it again. And what happens if you just walk off the edge?
Dang. We're glad
Classic.
you played.
Just dang. Okay, so what you do to actually solve this is climb down the ladder. And then Roger will emerge with a disc. Excellent. So now we're just going to save it again. So if we use this little console... Actually, we need to use the disc on the console, I think. Nice little touch here. You can still see that rainbow pattern. That's exactly the pattern they used to use on the Sierra discs back in the day. So if we go beam download... No, that's wrong. Beam upload. That puts Vohaul into the computer. If we go disk upload, that puts Roger Jr. into the computer. Now what we should do is go Roger Jr. then download into the beam. But let's put Vohaul back in the beam just for fun.
Well, that's just great. Now Vohaul's on the loose again, disguised as your son. You lose 3 out of 2.
So that was a bit silly. Okay, let's actually finish this game properly. So all we got to do is we put the disc in.
Select
Oops.
this icon to close this window.
Nope. Don't want to do that. Okay, so upload the beam, upload the disc, and then we download Roger Jr. into the beam. Now let's sit back and enjoy the final
Follow
sequence.
Me. There are many things we need to talk about.
Is it true? I'm so...
You must be very confused.
Were Vohaul's words true? Are you really my son? You do look a little like me, though not as good looking.
What do you mean, not as good looking? I'm 10 times... Wait. What am I saying? This is no way to start. Yes, what Vohaul said is true. I have many things to tell you, Dad. I should start at the beginning. I was born 19 years ago on Xenon. It's always been my home. The Xenon of today, at least up until recently, had made great strides in managing our planet's resources. That included water, minerals, even the talent of our population. We enjoyed peace for so many years, we took it for granted. The creation of the first super biomech computer was the biggest success story in our history. When the Vohaul virus was introduced and began to control the computer, a state of total chaos was created. We were unprepared for what followed as Vohaul turned our technology against us. The population was quickly decimated. Some of us stayed and tried to fight, some were captured, and some fled the planet. When it seemed there was no hope, we thought of one last long-shot effort. That was to find the only person in history ever to defeat Vohaul. We had to go back in time to find that person, you. We got there just in time.
you had to go back in time to get me. Why wasn't I available in this time? What happened to me? I don't understand.
I'm sorry. There are some things I wish I could tell you, but can't. I know that's not what you want to hear. Believe me, I just can't.
Hey, if you're my son, who's your mother? My wife? Where is she? Who is she?
You sure ask a lot of questions for a janitor. This is my mother and your wife. Her name was Beatrice Wankmeister. She was quite beautiful, wasn't she?
What do you mean, was quite beautiful? What are you saying?
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Please, I can't tell you anymore.
I don't believe all this. I'm so confused.
It doesn't matter now. I have to send you back where I found you so that history will properly reflect the events which brought us to this place in time. You won't remember much. This will seem like it was a weird, fuzzy dream. I must get back to the task of contacting all the surviving citizens of our planet. We have a huge task ahead of us. Rebuilding our city and our lives will not be easy, but we will do it. Once more, I have to ask you to enter the time rip. It will return you to Magmetheus in the Space Quest 4 era. Please, go now. It's time. Dad? I'm glad I got to see you, even if only for a few minutes. Xenon owes you a lot. Goodbye, Dad.
So many unanswered questions. The future should prove most interesting for Roger, if he can stay out of trouble long enough to reach it. We're glad you could help Roger get through it all. Thank you for playing Space Quest 4.
Alright, so there we go, the ending of Space Quest 4. As I said, this leaves things very open. Who's your wife going to be? Where does your son fit into things? Now, there are 2 more Space Quests after this. There is Space Quest 5 and Space Quest 6. Unfortunately, after Space Quest 6, Sierra sort of went in a different route, as traditional sort of point-and-click adventure games were kind of, I guess, declining in sales, and Sierra was changing direction. So Space Quest 7 was unfortunately cancelled, and we never got to the point where we saw Roger's son or anything like that. But we do get to meet Roger's future wife. But if you want to see more of that, then please stay tuned for further playthroughs of Space Quest. I will be covering that one hopefully very soon. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you've watched every single part of this. I really do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. It really does help out the channel and doesn't cost you a thing. And finally, again, if you're enjoying this content, check out my other videos and maybe just consider subscribing if this is the sort of content that's for you. Thank you so much once more, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later. Oh, and you think I forgot? No, never. What is our score? Well, that time we got 312 out of 315. Not bad for Space Quest 4. This is a hard one to get every single point. I've got no idea where I've missed them, but hey, if you know where I missed a point or two, drop it down in the comments. I'd be interested to know. Thanks again, and see you later.